Good afternoon, YouTube. This is Los Angeles Prepper here, and today we are looking at this insane contraption, the Windsurf Moran. What we have here is the main hull, which is a windsurfing board. This is the main frame for the cross member up here. This is the sort of rear seat slash foot pedal frame. It screws into existing holes for the foot straps, four there, and six in the back. I have stowed the foot pedals, but they're kind of hard to move right now. But anyways, these are the foot pedals that go to the rudder, which is not in right now, but the rudder mounts in those brackets. This is the seat. This is the main hole where the seat goes. Actually, it looks like the wall, but that's not the wall. It's actually, you kind of see it's a separate piece of material right there. This is some new crossmember material that I scavenged from trash. Well, just it was in front of somebody's yard next to their trash. It wasn't in a trash can. This is part of the rudder routing, the cable routing. This is a little removable seat. Just kind of chills in there. This is the main cleat for the main line. So previously I had tried these pontoons, which were kind of a joke. They're real pontoons, they're watertight, but only provided about 15 pounds, if that, maybe of buoyancy. So had some capsizing issues. So went to some bigger pontoons, got two 9-foot surfboards, and believe it or not, they're actually both almost identical in length, and probably very similar in buoyancy. The McTavish is a little bigger, so it's probably going to be a little more buoyant, but I know it's a little heavier. The BJ is a little lighter, but it's also a little thinner, so you can tell this McTavish had some serious repair. I think the whole thing's split in two. It looks like that seam actually goes all the way around, and some huge delamination they were fixing on the front there. But anyways, wanted to kind of show you this, as part of my bug out boat. But also, I needed a little bit of advice. Presently, I'm sitting kind of here, which is I have a little bit too much weight in the rear. Because when you're standing on the windsurfing board, you're sort of standing like about here, and you're kind of leaning back and out a little bit. So the center of gravity is sort of more in this area, and my center of gravity when I'm sitting down and leaning back is sort of more in this area. So currently and I haven't really had a good chance to test, the balance in the water, but I'm fairly certain that this thing is going to ride real tail heavy the way that it's set up right now. So my question is, what do you think I should do to rectify that? A couple of options. Of course, one option is try to move this frame forward. Now, if you're wondering why I put the seat so far back in the first place, it's because even with the sail mounts, the mast of the sail, I mounted all the way to the front right there. So even with the sail mounted all the way there, and I'll get back as far as I can, um, it still just barely clears where I'm sitting because I'm sort of sitting like that. So it still kind of barely clears me uh, when I, tack and jibe and such. So if I want to move the seat forward, even if I want to move the seat forward like 12 inches, for example, then I'm out of the mast track, and then I have to sort of do a little custom mast mount, which isn't the biggest deal in the world because I do strap this down with a really big strap to help stabilize it, but as well as another piece that goes lengthwise, which is, I think, behind all that stuff. But so one option, of course, move the seat a little bit forward, and/or sort of move the frame forward, which, because I kind of glued these pieces in, which probably wasn't a great idea. Like I glued this one to all these cross members. It's going to be a little bit of a headache to reposition the frame. Moving the mast track forward is not too annoying. That's one option. Another option is to add some buoyancy in the rear. I was thinking sort of something the size of two boogie boards. potentially using two boogie boards, in fact. Only issue being I have the rudder coming down right here, so I have to either extend the rudder or cut giant gaping holes so that the rudder can still pivot between where the boogie boards are like both glued. Or not glued, but affixed to this rear area. Because I'm really thinking I need like between 20 and 40 more pounds of buoyancy to stop the tail, maybe 30 to 50 pounds to stop the tail digging in too much. So that's option number 2, buoyancy in the rear. Option number 3 is mount, because I have a couple different options for mounting the pontoons. The way that I had those pontoons mounted, I had the cross member coming across, and then I had these funky aluminum arms that I welded up. So the pontoon was centered on this cross member. That's not how most trimarans are set up. Most trimarans actually have 2 cross members. I was sort of going more for the like hydroptère, the French hydroplaning design of 2 outriggers that are smaller in the front and then a main hull that's bigger. That doesn't give me any rear buoyancy. If I go to the classic trimaran design and, for example, take one of these guys and kind of mount it without getting this whole thing to turn. So I can take something like this, mount these surfboards. Instead of mounting them where the center is sort of up where the sail's mounted, I can mount them so that the tails kind of line up and the cross member being stiff all the way across from, the one outrigger to the center to the other outrigger will give me a little bit of buoyancy. I can kind of borrow some tail buoyancy from both the surfboards. So that's option 3, which requires a little bit more framing because I have 2 cross members to deal with. So I have to have a little subframe like this. I have to have 2 of those on each outrigger. So that's 4 total subframes that I have to build, as well as connecting this beam to this beam in such a, and it is solid wood, I believe. So it's, other than the fact there's a few joints, but that's actually sort of unfortunate, but it's nevertheless pretty solid stuff. It's not particle board. So, and it's not going to be supporting a huge amount of weight because this 2x4 is really taking the brunt because the sail's mounted up here. So the struts that I have, or the shrouds, I should say, the paracord shrouds that I have mounted to the mast up here take most of the heeling force from the sail. So option number 1, try to move the seat forward. Option number 2, add some buoyancy to the rear. Option number 3, mount the outriggers more towards the rear to give me a little bit more stability. So yeah, I appreciate you guys taking a look at my bug out trimaran vehicle. If and when I do get it out on the open ocean, I'm definitely going to get some video. I'm fairly confident it will sail somewhat decently, at least on water that, waves that are less than 1 or 2 feet tall. They're not V hulls. They are planing surfboards and windsurfing boards. So it's going to get a little bit choppy when it gets choppy, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully anyway. So like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you think about this crazy windsurfing trimaran contraption that I have.